The stream is live!
We have just discovered that it never went live after we pressed the button. Wow. We've been talking for 20 minutes.
20 minutes? Which part didn't go live? From where?
All of it. It never actually went live.
None at all. But what about those messages from people? Were they not live? They were.
Oh, because the feed exists. People can join the stream beforehand.
Okay, but we were not live.
And I wasn't paying enough attention. Like, I've seen, like, tell them to pedal faster. I wasn't following. No one's like, it's not bloody live. Where's the show?
Well, we're live now. We're live now. Hello,
everybody. Well, I'm sorry. We talked about bolt action now, so we have to move for something.
We're
moving on now.
Details, release schedule, everything.
All the secrets you wanted to know. You missed them all.
Johnny B got his lad out just for entertainment purposes. You missed all the good stuff. Oh, wow.
That's a shame. They had me murdering Italian words. It's really quite interesting.
It's a really fun segment as well. I just showed Alessio talks how to say Italian words like Salieri and so forth.
You joined us.
Is that at least recorded?
It was
not even recorded.
It never happened.
So that was just for us. That was just for us. Well, folks, yeah, we're just about to. Alessio has introduced himself. If you don't know who he is, just go on Wikipedia and you'll realise he's one of the famous stars in Lord of the Rings. He came over about 25 years ago. He was a translator for G-Dubs. He did his thing and then made his own company, River Horse Games. Go check it out if you haven't already. Loads of cool games. But right now, when you guys have come in, we're just about to talk about bolt action, I believe. Is that where we're at?
So now we were just about to talk about Alessio's history. So the kind of stuff that we did was very much pre-ramble chat and fun and so forth, introductions. We were about to get into the meat of the interview where Alessio was telling us his history in gaming. So I think rather than lose the segments that we wanted to cover in the time available, I apologize. That's my fault. I obviously failed to click the button. I pressed it, it didn't work, or I misclicked or something. And I'm really sorry. Especially for you people who've been sat around 20 minutes thinking, where's the bleeding show?
Thank you for waiting.
For our regular viewers, if this ever happens again, please say in the chat, the show is not live, if it should have been 10 minutes ago, because it definitely, we thought it was.
Well, I just saw a load of things come up on my screen here on the phone. Right. That's what made me poke it.
Alessio, you used to work for Games Workshop. Now you run your own company. Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about where you fit into that Games Workshop story?
Yes, I'll do a shorter version. Yes, so I moved over to England in 1995 to work for Games Workshop as a translator after winning the Italian tournament, Warhammer tournament. So then I started to work as a translator, and I started to win tournaments, the staff tournaments in Games Workshop, and that made me interact a lot. As a translator, I was interacting a lot with the authors, with the game designers, and basically I was annoying them with questions about rules and things, and what do you mean by this rule? Because I have to translate it, so I have to understand it, and so I got to know them, and when a position as a games developer came about, like about a year later, I applied, got the job, and started to write army books for Warhammer for a few years. Then I got given the honor of the task of writing an edition of Warhammer, the new one of the. Let me see if I remember which version was it. Sixth, maybe it was sixth. Yeah, I think 6th edition. And then after that, 40K again, some army books, some codexes, and then given the rule book. This was 6th edition, I believe. Was it 5th, 6th?
Okay, so that's not 5th. Terribly long ago then.
Well, it was 90. So it started in 95, 96. So the it would be early 2000s or late 90s, beginning of 2000. That was when I was given the Lord of the Rings as the system that I looked after for a few years after that. So until 2010, I was in the studio doing pretty much all systems. I was responsible for the rules, for all the rules for a certain period, trying to keep them together. That was the job. And then eventually 2010, parted way from Geeks Workshop and started River Horse.
Was that part of that same period when people like John left? Was that all around the same time?
Just Ballard. Yeah. There was a period when things were not doing too well. The company was not doing great. Basically, after the Lord of the Rings bubble burst, suddenly we ended up with big overheads and not enough. So basically, there was a shake-up at that time and shed quite a few people. Basically, were in the end left the company. Like, just before me was Andy Chambers and then Gavin Thorpe. I could see all my colleagues, sort of seniority, kind of going, I was like, "Ooh, is it me next?" So yes, indeed, it was me indeed. So there was, like all companies, ups and downs. During a down, obviously, some people, in one way or another, ended up not working there anymore, and that's when I thought I was going to basically being a game designer, an employee of Warlord Games or Romantic. Those were the two companies I was more in close at the time, because obviously there was Bolt Action for Warlord and there was Kings of War for Romantic. And
did you write Kings of War then?
Yeah, I worked for Kings of War.
Right. This is a very different game, isn't it?
Yes.
We've actually I just played my first game of that the other week. I quite like it.
Well, thank you. I mean, this is the fourth edition, something like that. So since third edition, I relinquished the reins, and basically the Mantic does that with the rules committee. But yeah, I've written the original and the second edition, I think. So the first book version of it. But yeah, it's my design, my game as well. Yes.
Yeah, and I don't think the game has radically changed from your initial system at all. In fact, it's still the core rules, so it's doing well, obviously, as an alternative to Warhammer, which is good.
Yeah, that was the intent, indeed. Yeah,
and I love what I love about it, and I've liked it for a long time. I painted some dwarves about 5 years ago for the system, just never got around to playing it really. I love the idea. The base footprint is all that matters. There's no figure removal. The unit's got, whether it's shock, whether it's resilience, call it what you want, in these alternative mechanics to figure removal. Because figure removal is always a bit bonkers if you're a tall player, certainly with anything historical. A historical battle that's got more than 10% casualties is a massacre. People do not fight to the last man. They don't fight to 1/10 of the men dead. They leave when they're losing that hard.
Yes, they say you have to be like, Battle of Cannes, something like that, where actually there are cases, but not normally, no.
Yeah, Cannes is literally a massacre. Though.
Literally that. Yes.
Literally a massacre. Yeah, we killed everyone today, and that was quite special.
Yeah, they couldn't run away. Yes.
Yeah. So then from that, so you did these kind of early commits. So did you write the first edition of Bolt Action as well then? That's it. Bolt Action is your game.
Yes, Bolt Action I wrote, and Rick was still at Games Workshop at the time. And when Rick left Games Workshop, we were finishing off Bolt Action. That was literally the last stages of that. And I remember John Stallard saying to me, "Oh, Alessio, because it's your game, but you don't mind, Rick has now left Workshop. I would like his input, and would like to get him involved with the last stage of the design, and maybe some input, some changes and stuff."
And put his name on the cover.
Exactly, so that we can have Rick involved as well as an author. And I was like, and he maybe was expecting me to be precious about it and to resist it. I'll figure, well, it's my game. But actually, because I get royalties on Bolt Action, I just went, wait. You're telling me you're putting Rick Priest's name on the book? I don't mind at all.
Right.
Please do. And I mean, as well as the mercenary reason, also, I mean, Rick is a friend, and Rick is my senpai, is my mentor. So actually, every time I work with Rick, it is a pleasure. It's a great pleasure. It is amazing. I mean, he is an amazing writer. But I mean, not just in terms of game design, which is, a lot of what I know I learned from him and Jervis. I guess those are my two main kind of the people that I kind of always quote as the inspirational and people that taught me a lot of stuff. Not to say that other people haven't, like, Thomas Perrin and Andy Chambers, Gavin Thorpe, but I think normally Jervis and Rick are my go-to people for game design, learning, and so working with Rick is a pleasure. It's great. It's amazing. His writings, his witticisms, his use of English, the language. I wish I could write, half as well as he does. It's just a pleasure to read his books. I mean, if you read the Black Powder, just the way he's written. So it's just amazing. Which for me is like, okay, so I've written Bolt Action. The mechanics are mine. However, a lot of the text is written by Rick, so sounds a lot better if it was written by me. So yay! Absolutely.
So sort of drilling down into that relationship a bit. I mean, when what you said right at the beginning of the segment about the fact that you were translating it into another language, right? And when you're doing that, that's pretty good Q&A for a rule set, isn't it?
Extremely.
Because people have to read it in detail and then try and think of a way of explaining it in a language that's quite probably structured very differently. So you're not translating it word for word. You're translating the meaning of it, and therefore, how clear was that rule? And what we know about rules is they're often interpreted differently.
Absolutely.
So I imagine that was really good preparation for writing rules down the line. Is like, actually, this could be clearer.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The mind, the brain does a completely different thing when you're translating than when you're reading. It's incredible how much information you give. You assume, you do assumptions. You kind of, and when you write in your own language and read the thing yourself that you have written is not, the brain doesn't do the same thing as, I must render this sentence in a different language. Therefore, the understanding of that sentence and the attention to detail is different. It's just a different brain process. So no, it's very true. Translators do spot a lot of things. And years later, when I was writing the rules and other people were translating the rules, they were doing that to me, and it was hilarious because like, oh yeah.
right, yeah.
Oh yeah, now
I understand. No, that's not what I mean. Right.
It's funny.
So, because I think the writing of rules, and it's such a huge step, isn't it? I think all of us, serious gamers, at some point in our life, have sat down with a piece of paper and a notepad and written out a table of weapons and a list of movement ranges, and all but written a set of rules, but then realised that taking it to that next step is just a colossal. The actual broad line mechanics of firing and fighting, there's 100 different ways of doing it, and a lot of us can see other ways of doing it, and certainly have preferences. It's like, well, I really like a lot of people enjoy the bolt action turn order stuff. That is a fantastic mechanic for keeping a game fresh and for keeping both players involved.
Yeah, but not everybody does. I mean, and again, what you're saying, some people don't like it. Some people think it's too random, and you kind of go, well, I want alternating activations. Yeah, this is too random. It's like, yeah.
I know it's not random because John always gives the last 4 dice over to me because he's had all of his. And
it's not random.
It's not random.
I've got the bag. So
he takes a turn when he wants, and then mine are left at the end. Not random.
Is that not what you meant when you wrote the rules?
That you got from the
dice.
Yeah. I think not. No.
No?
But yes, it is random, but it is exciting. I have to say, I do play bolt action as a hobby. It's one of that moment when the start of the turn when you kind of go, my tank has to fire first, my sniper has to do. Oh my god!
Nobody's going to bring their tank on until the other guy's brought his tank on, so you get a free shot, all that stuff. Yes. I love that.
And you can visualize the crew frantically reloading to take the next shot, kind of thing. So it's quite. I'm pleased with that part of the game.
As a mechanic, it has a massive amount of player agency And that's one of the problems. So I lived through the I don't know whether the golden age is the right time, but when DBA came into the wargaming scene and dominated for 6 months to a year, it was just huge. Everyone was doing it. Oh, it's really simple. Look, 12 bases of figures, off you go. Like, yeah, but these rules are written in fucking Greek, and I just put all my men in a line and wait until one on the end falls back, and then I win the game. And there's no player agency in that game. I don't make any choices. Whereas in bolt action, every time you pull a dice, you're looking at what your best option is under the changed situation from when you last moved a unit. That's what I think is so good about it. And it's so much better than I move a unit, you move a unit, which is still a much more modern way of doing it. I like that. But the bolt action, that chance of a double turn on your tank, but it's only going to be the one unit that gets that double turn, and it's only 50-50. I think it's really powerful, because I think games are often really bad at providing player choice without dumping a load of rules and a load of complexity on the game. Whereas that pulling a token out of a bag is clean and simple. I think you should be very proud if you invented that mechanic.
Yeah, the man.
Well, thank you.
Did good.
I mean, let's be fair. Pulling cheats out of a bag or a cup is not a new thing. But I kind of.
But for wargaming turn order,
compliment.
was it not brand new for wargaming as a way of determining turn order?
Yeah, I think. Well, I don't know literally for wargaming, but certainly it's not an unknown mechanic. But yes, I think the adaptation into bolt action is quite successful, I think. Yeah, and as I said, I find it entertaining. And I mean, like you were saying, when is your turn and you draw that dice and the choice of that, the one discipline that I always try to learn is you really want to do this thing, but now the target has acted. There is no urgency here. Look away from the thing you really want to do. Is there something more urgent you need to do before that thing?
Well, I don't like acting early with my infantry, because then they can't go down. And in bolt action, infantry get shot on 7s at long range and nothing happens. And then suddenly it becomes a murder zone where things are hit on 3s and 4s. And I really don't like acting with my infantry if they are likely to be shot this turn at close range.
Yep.
For example, and that such nuance. I know I sound like a fanboy, because I think very highly of it.
You can be a fanboy.
Now, so here's my big problem with bolt action. My big problem, Alessio.
Surely there's no problem with bolt action.
There is no pre-measuring in bolt action. What is wrong with you, Alessio?
Well, I can very firmly blame it on other people. It's very good when you can blame other people for things. That was one of the brief parameters. The brief parameters. We went a great length of. When I get given a design task, what I normally do for a long time at the start is I make the client go through, basically bombard them with questions, just lots of questions, because often they don't really know themselves exactly what they want. And by just, it's the Socratic method. It's just like, do you mean, would you like? So I keep asking lots of questions and form a brief with that and say, right, so.
Yeah, it's just really hard to unlearn it, because modern games let you pre-measure. They don't care. And then when you get to bolt action, like, no, you can't. And it's an important part of the game that you can't.
And that was very much a question. There was like, do we do pre-measure or not pre-measure? And they were like, what are the advantages of one? What are the advantages of the other system? And eventually, basically the brass of Warlord decided that they thought that it was funnier, not knowing whether when you take the shot, whether the enemy is in range or not. And they preferred it like that. I was like, okay. Sure, your game, do it like this.
So there's the frustration aspect, but the other aspect is one of the things I dislike the most about games is when it leverages the advantage on favor of the experienced player. List building does that a lot, but things like pre-measuring do as well. I've been gaming since I was 17, maybe younger. I know what 6 inches looks like on a wargames table. Maybe I'm wrong sometimes, but not often. But somebody who's new to gaming, they don't know, and that's just an advantage in the hands of the wrong player. It's a definite handicap for new players. That
I to be honest, I don't have a strong preference between pre-measuring and not pre-measuring. What I like about pre-measuring is that it often avoids discussions. As in, like, is this in range, not in range? Well, I measured it before. We agree whether it's in range or not in range.
And the intent only works if you can pre-measure, right? You measure it, you say what you want to do, you agree if that's the case.
Absolutely. So it takes away a little amount of discussion, I guess, and the occasional misunderstanding. But it's true what the guys Warlords say, that actually is less entertaining because they all kind of, I move and will I be able to take a shot or not? That thing, which is in a way perhaps more realistic. Obviously, we cannot talk about realism in bolt action because rifle range in reality versus rifle range in bolt action, or howitzers. This heavy howitzer, actually, you could be out of range on this table.
Well, I don't think you could shoot this howitzer on the table if it's on it. It doesn't drop that shot.
Yes. So basically, obviously, a lot of the ranges have been massaged for gaming purposes, not because of accurate representation of scale on the table, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, yes. No, sorry. Going back to pre-measuring, I understand has advantages, has disadvantages. The choice there was very clear. That the brief was nope, no pre-measuring. The question was asked and delivered.
Yeah. It's interesting to know that you asked that question up front.
Oh yeah, right, so it's part of a million questions.
So the next one, and I'm not looking to offend you here, but I wonder whether you talked about a little bit about writing and the quality of writing and the nature of writing, which as a librarian, obviously, I'm with you. But as a games player, it seems that there's a quality that you respect that I don't like as a player. And that's the blending of fluff with rules. And you talked about Rick, and Rick is the worst offender. Rick writes a page with a rule in the middle of it.
Yes, no, I understand exactly.
Very readable and very entertaining. Now, bolt action again, it's pretty well structured with the rules. But when the rule you're looking for isn't where you think it is, you have no idea where to find it. And not knowing if the rule is there or not is like, I think that this is a rule. You look, you can't find it. You don't know that it's not there. And there's often a lot of text to read. So on first reading, like one of your rule sets, or Rick sets in particular, they are very readable. But when it comes to looking things up, you have to read through a lot of text to find the rule embedded within it.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
Yeah, no, I understand exactly what you mean, and I guess it's true. It's true that Rick's style is fluffy. I think very enjoyable to read, but particularly if you want to find stuff quickly, in some cases, indeed, it could be quite difficult to tell apart the fluff from the rule in some cases, indeed.
Yeah, because the fluff is often introducing the rule, and then there's others just pages of fluff.
So perhaps you would want a different text style, it's like
text boxes
or just go, like cursive is fluff, straight is. So I don't know, something like that. I don't know. It's a difficult balance, isn't it? Because I love enjoyable text like that. It makes it all. I guess it depends also what type of player you are. I think what I've learned through many years of playing war games, is that I started very much as a tournament player. Originally I was a hardcore, kind of
win at all costs
power player kind of.
Right.
I like to think that I never cheated, but I certainly pushed those rules to the limit. Kind of like this means that. No, it means that. There was no. Or just roll a dice. We'd argue forever if I was convinced that rule meant X. So certainly not very pleasant to play against. Winning tournaments, to win tournaments, you have to be like that. Otherwise, if you're just ready to go, I cannot be bothered. Let's just roll a dice. You don't win. You don't win the tournaments. Most cases. So I come from that, and I always try to simplify, streamline, cut as much as possible. I mean, you see that in bolt action, for example. That's my take on running away, as in a lot of the system I played before, it was like, so when you run away from the thing that caused the panics, the thing that caused you to run away. But then what if there's an enemy behind you? Oh, well, then you go towards the closest table edge. But what if the table edge is actually in the direction of the guy that shot at me in the first place? Oh, then you go, and there was all this convoluted things that often break because of positioning and stuff. So I never felt anything satisfactory in that sense. And my solution was like, you failed the morale test. The unit is removed. It's like, yes,
I mean,
individually, the man would be scattering and running away, surrendering. I mean, but in these 6 turns, which represent a small amount of time, I don't care. I don't care what they're doing, whether they're dispersing here and regrouping an hour later behind that hill over there.
Yeah,
it's fine. They're not in this game for the purposes of this game.
yes.
They're gone.
I forget because I'm so used to I've played bolt action for such a long time. I forget how shocking that was as a mechanic. If you lose in close combat, you are destroyed. If you
fail a morale test, you're destroyed.
Gone.
Yeah, you don't make many morale tests though. Fortunately,
true.
It's rare to take that test. I mean, like if a unit needs to get 9 pins to take a morale test, you gotta shoot at it in 6 turns quite a lot.
Yeah, there's only small units that tend to end up taking tests, or when they're very small, obviously it's easy to halve them with one shot, kind of thing.
Yeah.
True.
So that's generally the thing, isn't it? Is when you're down to your last few guys, you lose a couple. All right. Just should say from the chat, Lazy Pirate Painting, thank you for Kings of War, the best fantasy war game ever. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And he's a big bolt action fanboy. And unlike me, because he's wrong, of course, I say about one of my viewers, thank you for watching, Bob, but pre-measuring is the best way to do it. I'm sorry. I won't hear otherwise. I just end up doing it anyway and then feel bad.
But that's okay, though, right? You can converse with your opponent, and if they're all right with it, you just crack on. That's the joy of games. If you're not too into the rules as per written.
I suppose if 2 of you agree that they prefer pre-measuring, you can pre-measure. It's like, it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely does affect decision making. Because obviously Bolt Action 3 is going to be a thing one day, whether it's next week, next month, next year, or there's a copy post. No matter what that is, it's worth saying talking about some of those things. And to that problem that I just mentioned about looking up rules is a big part of wargaming, unfortunately. It happens to us a lot because as a YouTube channel, we can't sort of willfully time after time get things wrong. So like in a club setting, we would often just fudge it. We would agree on a solution if we don't know. Whereas now when something comes up, we kind of feel obliged to look it up and check. Index. Get a proper index on the next one. It makes such a difference. And I know that.
It's not his fault.
No, but
it's not his fault.
They're different people usually. You pay an indexer normally. I don't know whether that's the same in wargaming. Do you normally write your own indexes, Alessio, or would you pay someone?
Normally that's part of the editing part of the job,
Flames of War has a comprehensive index, and we can usually find what we're looking for. And we know that system a lot less well. Whereas sometimes with Bolt Action, it can be hard to find things. We
still get the rule wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And we forget it for the next game, but still.
The next game is the big one. Yeah,
an index, alphabetical index at the end of the book. Yeah. Something that would be useful. I mean, to be honest, the other thing that makes us lazy from indexing things these days is that, of course, you often use digital versions of books. So you kind of go, well, search it up, right? And then you have a paper version. It's like, how do I activate the search function on this book, this paper thing?
Where is that? It's called an index. Guessing ranges add skill and extra uncertainty, says Rich John. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, I would really appreciate an index. Right. So, Bolt Action 1 versus Bolt Action 2 differences. So these were like conscious decisions that you changed.
Yeah, very much discussed, tried, argued for and against by different parties. That's the process.
You went for templates.
Yep. Right. I can tell you the story of the templates. I mean, how they came about. That was playing a game at John Stallard's house, in fact. And I was without conscious. I didn't try to do it, but I was maximizing my firepower, as you do as a big clump of guys, because you can ignore guys in your own squad for simplicity, not to have to, because
I love simplicity.
but it would be more realistic if you didn't, because then you would have to spread out. It will look more realistic, right? You wouldn't be, I mean, a clump of guys firing through our own guys.
A tank and an armored car and a flak 88. There's nothing realistic about what you're doing.
Exactly, and so I had these clumps of guys firing and maximizing firepower on a small frontage. There were these clumps of guys, and Joe Stalin looked at them and went, "What are you doing?" "Well, I'm shooting." I was like, "Why are they so bunched up?" I was like, "Well, because actually, funny enough, that's kind of, you get a lot of firepower on a small frontage by clamping up like it's like, why are they not spreading out? there's explosives and stuff around." It's like, oh, well, and it was like, we must make people spread out, because
all right, that was a sellout.
clearly, this is no Napoleonics. This is not shoulder to shoulder formations. They spread out. They must spread out. So initially we were like, okay, that was the task, the brief. It's like, real. The point was a realism. It just doesn't look right. More were two guys in big clumps. So he just went, okay, how do we achieve that? And some solutions were presented, and some of them were mechanical solutions where you kind of go, no, you have to be with it. But those things are, frankly, if you can write rules that invite people to do the right thing as opposed to force them to do the right thing, I think that's so much better. So we were like, okay, how do I discourage you from bunching up? I was like, oh, wait a second.
Template weapons.
We could use templates instead of the random numbers, which is obviously easier, the version 1 with the number of hits. But templates certainly have the effect of, you kind of go, oh, HE, whatever, again, there with a big HE, oh, we should spread out, guys, because if we're still clamped up, it's like one shot will take us all out. So it has that effect. And what I did manage to do with the templates, however, I resisted really hard, and there was a big fight that I managed to win, is against the scattering of templates. Because I think a template which is used as a tool to find out how many hits you score is not too bad. You kind of go, it's not too difficult to use. You just, look from top down, how many bases can I get under this thing? This is the number of hits. And that's it. It's just a different way of getting a number of hits.
Actually, you're required to put it in the most effective spot, aren't you?
You're trying to,
you have to put it where it gets the most guys.
As many as possible of the guys in the unit you're targeting, just to avoid it. Well, a clip is here and go and hit. Yeah. But I resisted so hard against the scattering, because for me the scattering I really don't like scattering templates, because I've never seen anybody, including myself, doing it actually without bias. The wind always blows slightly in the direction you want it to blow, right? Either away from your guys or slightly closer to the other guys. And enforcing if you're picky about it, it's like, no, I think you find that the scatter dice is pointing that way, not that way, 2 degrees to the left. So all this moving on templates, I just like, no, we're not doing this. No, right, guys, really, no. Okay, templates, fine, I see it, spread out, measure the number of hits, but no scattering on templates. And the really difficult one was on indirect fire, because obviously, clearly, everybody in indirect fire is like, yeah, but what if the shot lands a bit over there and hits these other guys? Like, I get it, but no,
we're gonna not care.
It just landed off the table. No, no.
I mean, I get it. I understand that. What I don't like about templates, so what I don't like about games, and this goes back to the DBA thing for me, is when the mechanics of the game, the rules, push you to do things which I feel shouldn't matter. Now, I understand what you just said there. Everything you said about like clustered unit makes sense about why you want to do that. But I hate having to think carefully about where each model in my unit is in terms of time for gameplay. The careful model placement thing, I'm never happy with that. It's time consuming. It consumes a lot of brain power for very marginal benefit. But if you want to leverage the game to do well, you need to do that. And it seems so contrary to so many of the other bolt action rules, which are around speed, simplicity. Like only half the models have to be in cover. Like the other guys can be literally standing in the road. You still get cover. You know, it's like this is a simple, and the template weapons just stand out from that completely as going back in totally the other direction.
And it certainly wasn't in the original, in Bolt Action 1, in the original design, for the very reason you're saying. However, obviously there was a reasonable request, and I thought, yeah, no, it certainly makes sense, and I think it was the best way of trying to make people spread out. Now, you're right. If you want to maximize or minimize the number of hits when you're under HE threat, yes, you can spend endless time trying to be super. You could go, I make sure that everything is exactly 1 inch away. Yeah. But to be honest, in many games, people don't do that. They just roughly do that. So it's not too bad, I find. I mean, it is. Yeah, you kind of make sure you're not in a clamp, that you're in a line.
So, the thing about that is as well in Bolt Action is that rifles and machine guns are not going to kill you. It's HE that's going to kill you, and it's not just the size of the template. It's the hit. It's the to wound modifier, right? If you're hit by HE, you're probably dead in Bolt Action as a rule.
I just want to chip in and say I absolutely love the change to templates, mainly because my primary opponent, which is the Kaiser there, forgets to disperse his troops. Because his preference is to not do that. So it's a win for me. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't clump them up in a diamond in the same way. But I also think, to be fair, you forget that the bases are a footprint. The guy doesn't fill the base. There is an inch between models when they're base to base.
I'll quit whining.
On the eye sees them as adjacent, but the models are in the middle of those bases.
It's true.
Anyway, but I mean, I get where that comes from. All right, so that's that. So the weapons in Bolt, it's interesting to talk about this, and what I hadn't appreciated is how much of this is like, well, there's the authorial choices, but then there's brief, right? There's a customer, and they get to make ultimately they get to make those choices, right?
It's their game, absolutely. I mean,
you wrote it for them.
Absolutely, it is property of War Games. It's their game, by all means. I write it for them indeed.
So I'm gonna blame John next time I see you. John, don't do it. Right.
Well, that's the thing. The thing is, I can always, with Rick, we always say, whenever we talk about Bolt Action or any game we've wrote together, he's always like, well, when they ask you something they don't like, is the other guy wrote that part. Blame other people about the particular thing. It's like if you ask Rick, it would be a different story.
So the two kind of standout weapon systems, you're talking about Bolt Action 3 there, I'm uncomfortable with them. Personally, I'm not someone that's like a lot of people. This is a 30-figure game. Why is there a King Tiger on here or a KV2 or a Flak 88? I think that's down to people as players. I think that there's rules there, but if there's a Flak 88 in a game that I'm playing, that's the objective. That's what we've come here to destroy, right? It's not. If you're taking that in your army, that's on you, mate. There are rules if you want to play that game. And we played there like Hunt the Tiger, 20 guys, a couple of bazookas and a tiger. That's a fun game to play, but that's not the core game to me. But machine guns are not very satisfactory, and flamethrowers are ridiculously broken. or are they? Am I all wrong? So tell me about why you made flamethrowers the absolute win every game weapon.
Well, in second edition, they're not as much. I mean, I think first edition, they were definitely a bit too good. Second edition, with the roll to hit, half as effective as first edition, right? Roughly.
You don't kill anything that they hit for 50 points or something.
Don't quite. Well, I suppose.
Compared to any other weapon, I'd rather be shot at by a super heavy gun than a flamethrower in a tank.
In a tank?
And I've got more chances of actually being game effective afterwards.
Okay, well, I mean, I think we did hit it with a stick in second edition. You think it's still too powerful even in second edition because they don't seem to.
Check,
yeah,
which is like fail this and you're out. No matter what happened, it puts millions of pins on you, even if you do survive. So you're like missing 2 or 3 goes. Even if you do survive, and because of the nature of the weapon, you're pretty much always going to hit on a 3. Whereas with the anti-tank guns on a tank platform, they're going to be they don't hit that often.
Yeah, no,
If
I
you
think
look at
it's
tournament winning lists, they've got 4 flamethrowers and a load of multi-launchers in them. Because
okay.
they're the weapons that are really points effective. And the thing that bugs me about flamethrowers is they're really mission-specific weapons. It's not that they're not there. It's like you get a flamethrower to do a job and then you put it away because nobody wants to carry the damn thing.
I think if bow action was like a milsim, yes, but obviously that wasn't the intention. And Alessio's done what he's done. But yeah, they are painful to face, and we don't use them, do we?
I mean,
that's our choice.
the idea there is that they are, if you get within range, and it's like we're talking 6 inches range, then yes, they are really nasty. But the idea is that hopefully you kill them before they get anywhere near your 6 inches. Then, of course, use them in combination with jeeps and strange transport techniques where they come out.
And then they're quickly. A small team. They're not easy to kill with rifles and machine guns. I think you get they're almost always a unit kill for a handful of points.
Okay, so basically, you're saying we haven't hit them hard enough in version 2.
No,
I'll keep it under observation.
Yeah. What we need is when you roll to hit, they only hit on a 6, and any other number they explode. That's what we need.
But funnily enough, I try to go by little kind of evolution rather than changing them completely. Like, the flamethrowers are not as good as in first edition. In second edition, we'll see whether we need to hit them again.
Yeah.
Machine guns are better in second edition than in
really?
First edition.
Oh, they get more dice.
Yeah, well, exactly. They get progressionally better because if you roll the 1,000 dice, you will think it's fine, right?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of going. At what point? How many dice do they have to roll before you go? You know what? Yes.
Yeah. The machine gun one is funny because it's really close. The problem is it's just slightly less effective than whatever else. In fact, for 50 points, I could get 5 riflemen or 5 machine gun dice. That's the comparison, right? Now, if I'm British, those 5 riflemen put out 7 shots.
Oh, he's just getting bitter, Alessio. I wouldn't worry about it.
But even if they're not, they put out 5 shots and have 5 hit points instead of 3. They don't disappear when they get sniped. So there's a lot. Now, you want to make the sustained fire machine gun real. I think you're going to need something simple. I think 8 could be a bit cheaper, but I actually think you should be guaranteed a pin when you fire a machine gun.
The pinning with machine guns and putting more pings with machine guns was something that, again, we did try in play testing, and I think some unscrupulous players suddenly exploited that a lot, and suddenly there was no. It was
I didn't say more.
Pins. Yeah,
I said guarantee a pin.
Well, even if you miss, you still pin. Yeah.
Yes, because if somebody shoots at my team with a machine gun, I don't take that much solace from the fact that this brick wall should protect us all. So we're still suppressed, and it's actually what they're largely used. I understand like putting out D3 pins for 50 points could be quite bad, especially over 36 inches of range. But guaranteeing the pin is a small increase, makes them a lot more effective at doing something at long range. Because there's a lot of hitting on 7s goes on in bolt action in turn 1 and 2.
It would be mostly not a thing, like you said, because often at least one hit you would score. So you really...
The team I really want to kill was dug in on their objective on the other side of the board that I actually have to kill to win. Getting another pin on that. I just think it's the kind of small difference, and it does reflect how machine guns are used. As in guaranteeing the pin. Not an extra.
Let's go.
How about another dice?
How about another dice? And in 6s and 7s, it's such a marginal increase because it's a longer range. Anyway, so that flamethrowers and that. I think those are the big ones for me.
I mean, howitzers are a bit naughty, I have to say. There's a Terminator rulebook you're waving around there.
Yeah, come on. Bow action's boring now. I want to talk about River Horse. We started late. I want to hear what the main man's up to with his company.
Nearly finished. That's what I was coming to. Was I can't really ask you what you would like to change in Bolt Action because at some point there's going to be a Bolt Action 3, right? I assume you're not able to talk about that.
Well, I mean, Bolt Action 3 was started whenever the day after we released Bolt Action 2. That's the way of things, right? That's how you always are developing the next edition. You always started to look for things that, oh, this could do with improving. Oh, this could do with changing. Oh, this could, and it is always there's a design input and there's a commercial input that have to be married, and so there's, so yeah, of course, the Bolt Action 3rd edition is in development, like from when was Bolt Action 2 released? That's when it started developing. All systems are continuously evolving, of course, and you try to resist the urge of changing things. As a designer, you always want to change things. I strongly, as a philosophy, because I look after the system from a errata and FAQ point of view, and there's a big temptation of changing the game through errata. Oh, I don't particularly like this rule. Let's change it. Let's try something this and that. That for me is the ultimate temptation and the ultimate thing, the ultimate evil, really. Because if you start to do that, then you end up with a game which is half of the people play one way, half of the people play the other way, half of the people are not up to speed with the latest errata. So, don't you know they've changed things? Like, so for me, erratas are literally should be there to fix things that are broken, not to evolve things which you want as a designer to change. But next edition, that's what it's for, not the erratas and FAQs. Sorry, that's a bit random.
No. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right.
Good.
I think in the 21st century, with the kind of people access to digital, I do think the big game companies should offer annual dynamic points. I do think that. Those micro adjustments for balance, because I think that's a sheet you put out once a year saying, do you know what, we think this is not as good as it should be. We're going to make it this a bit cheaper, this a bit more. We're going to make bamboo spearmen for the Japanese army. We're going to delete them from the roster because it's ridiculous. Or whatever. But because I think that's the space we're in now. And it's not a big, and you don't have to use it if you don't want to. I know that like Games Workshop have been doing that for a while. Flames of War are experimenting with that at the moment, and they're like you saying, they didn't change the infantry points at all. They didn't change the artillery. We're just going to fiddle with the tanks for a year, see how that beds down, and then we'll look again. Is that something? I mean, I guess that would be a Warlord decision, though, would it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
it would be a company policy thing, and I don't think that's the intent from what I can gauge from speaking with people.
Wonderful. At the final segment, John's going to wave his book because Alessio's done far more than work on Bolt Action and work for Games Workshop. He has his own company, River Horse, which has published many games, particularly licensed products, including John's favorite franchise, Terminator.
It's Terminator. All right, this is a bad one. We don't say Genesis. We just say Terminator now.
Oh, do we?
Yes, understandable.
No, well, I am, because Genesis just died, killed the franchise. But yeah, what a great game, Alessio.
Right.
Underplayed, underrated, genius system, which I hope Kaiser will play one day, but I know he won't. But yeah, I really like what you did there.
The system is it's quite. I heard quite a lot of good things. I mean, some systems are less popular than others. This one is still, people still play it, and I heard, several good things about it, if I say so myself. It's very simple. It's not huge. I try to keep it very down. I mean, there's very few rules there, right? It is not a thick rule book.
Not excessively, no. And ultimately, you're only playing with two factions: one of fleshy humans and one of like unstoppable machines. So yeah, that certainly defines the rule set. And I like how you captured that in a lot of the rules. Like Kaiser doesn't know anything about the Terminator Genesis game, but as a resistance, you're running around and you've pretty much got wherever you are on the board, a modifier to hit because you're using the nooks and crannies, and you're trying to save your life, so you're using a lot of cover. The machines don't get that rule because they're just killing machines, so they can never claim cover. Obviously, that's completely outweighed by the fact they are titanium and therefore extremely difficult to kill. I love the polyhedral sort of skill system that you got in there. If you're a better fighter, you roll a higher dice, when I say a higher dice, a D10, D12 for those that haven't seen it. And obviously the Terminators are pretty solid. I think really you captured the theme very well in a rule set.
There's some very cute rules that are very much in theme with the IP. I mean, I remember writing rules like the "I'll be back"
I'll be
rule.
back. Yeah, I'll be back, and hasta la vista, baby.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Yeah, it's really good how you work that in.
They're all fit.
So,
I think the most successful one from that point of view has to be the re-rolls. The fact that this is you. Kaiser, you will appreciate this. Is every time you can buy re-rolls, to add to your army, but each re-roll token you buy is actually a time displaced agent. So whenever something doesn't go your way and you fluff the roll, you spend the token to re-roll the dice or force the opponent to re-roll, but then you have to explain how your agent in the past has affected the future. It's like, so how come these guys missed and now is hitting? It's like, because I went back into the past and modified his life and killed this guy, and then he gets to this school when he can train as a sniper, and therefore he's a much better shot. And then the opponent can actually play a counter to your reroll and say, I play my counter not to reroll my stuff, but to stop your agent from changing the past. And so I'll send my agent to kill your agent.
Which is very much the story, right?
Yeah. So you have a fight between the
electric
balls
in the past. A whole new film. I love it. And I really wish that you could, just say if you owned your own sort of like a games design company, if you could maybe re-release that under a more generic name as like, I don't know. Because it's a solid system. Would people buy it? I don't know if people know about it. Maybe some of our viewers will comment.
Well, certainly, anyway. The plan there would be to use it again for our new Little Skirmish War game, which should come out next year, maybe 2024, maybe 25. Depends how fast the approval process goes. But that's Ghost in the Shell. So it's based on the Ghost in the Shell manga. The original Japanese graphic novel, and so again, is not miles away from the Terminator in terms, machines, AI, and all that kind of stuff. So there is definitely the core of the system will be based on this. Obviously, not the same because the IP is not the same,
of course.
But the core engine would be that. So yeah, there would be a re-release of that system.
Good. So I like the sound of that.
That you mentioned there, then, which you obviously Terminator is a newer game than Bolt Action. You mentioned additional currencies in the game, and you mentioned
in the rerolls.
In terms of the rerolls, yeah. So there's other assets a player has apart from their figures to interact with the game, and the use of varied dice. Because I was of the understanding that you were quite into the D6. And that's what some people at Warlord had said in relation to Bolt Action, that you were like clinging to the D6 guy.
Not particularly myself. No. I think it's more of a company policy, really. I think it's a solid. That's the way wargaming should work. Warlord is fairly conservative in terms of the approach to wargaming as a philosophy, and I understand, and I like that, and certainly I've wrote that with the D6, but then they went themselves into
Antari,
D8 and stuff, D10s and stuff. So they changed things. No, the polyhedrals that are used in Terminator actually are used in our roleplay systems, like Tales of Equestria, the My Little Pony RPG. Basically, it's a house. it's a house style.
My Little Pony RPG. It's out there.
Yes, yes. I wrote that too. The philosophy there is to have a single number, which normally is 4. As much as possible, I kept that as 4 is the number, and then use the polyhedrals for like you were saying, basically, if you're not very good, you will roll a d4, and therefore you only have a 25% chance of hitting that mark. While actually, if you roll a d20, you're really skilled, then the chances are very, very high that you will hit that 4. So, and just leave it at that, and try not to use modifiers, so that people don't have to do maths. They just get a better dice, and all those dice are color coded. So in a way, you can go yellow is the d8, blue is the d20, and that's true in Tales of Equestria. My Little Pony thing is true there. So there is like a immediate color equals how good you are, and that is consistent. And I mean, I have a fascination with polyhedral dice. I did a thesis when I was at school about polyhedral dice because of the old Platonic. They are Platonic solids, all of them except the D10, is not, because the angles between the faces are not.
Well, I'm old enough to remember a world before D10s. Younger viewers will not know this. The D10 is like a man-made shape, as it were, and you used to get a D20.
Yep.
And
D20
with 2 sets of numbers on it.
Number from 1 to 10, from 1 to 0. Yes. Still have some of those indeed in my old games. I was playing Fellowship of the Ring with Jervis just this past Saturday, with indeed that very D20.
Right. You found it and you're like, oh, I'll use that as
very
a
old game.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So where are you with kind of more modern mechanics then? I mean, you mentioned some of this there. So, I mean, bolt action, although it has proprietary dice in the flavor of the order dice, that's just cosmetic. But I don't think I've seen any of your systems. I'm not aware of you using proprietary dice.
Not often.
Are you not a fan?
We use them in Pacific Rim. We created the Pacific Rim skirmish war game with huge pre-painted 75mm pre-paint models, which commercially was too difficult to produce. Basically, it was just the challenges of producing pre-painted models and send them around the world, and it was too difficult. It was too ambitious, I think. So we kind of went, okay, now there was a bit too much for a small company like River Horse, particularly. But the system does use dice, that are designed for the game and have their different symbols.
Pacific dice. It's a whole different game. A bit like Pacific Rim, but
That's right. So no, in some cases we used them, some cases we didn't. Not have a particular hate or love, or no. They're tools for the job. Sometimes it depends what vibe do you want to give to the thing. If you use normal dice, D6 is particular. I think there's a certain retro feel to it, more like traditional wargaming. If you go into specific dice and lots of tokens on the table, and maybe lots of kind of cards and things as well as models, there's more of a board gamey feel, a bit more of a more modern approach to wargame, like the Fantasy Flight style games, etc. So some people prefer one, some people prefer the other. I'm not saying one is right and one is wrong. I think possibly because my upbringing and what I love as a gamer, I think I sit a bit more on the old-fashioned. I kind of prefer the old-fashioned style, but I've done both. Can do both. I understand that it's pros and cons with both things.
So there's no chance of a event deck or a tactics deck in bolt action in future then?
Event deck. Some people mentioned that they wanted different dice to check in the bag, where when you draw this event dice, suddenly you look at the chart or draw a card indeed, and something happens, like it starts to rain or stuff like that.
I love that stuff, because as I've got older and I've taken gaming less seriously in a lot. I don't play nearly so much. The winning isn't nearly as important to me as the enjoying the game. I found I enjoy randomness more and more. I've said this loads of times. The best game ends with one of the guys rolling a dice on the last turn, getting a 6, and you both cheer. That's how you want the game to have ended. And hopefully there's still time to get a few beers in or go to Mackie D's or whatever it is that you want to do. You're not exhausted at the end of it, which the fixed turn length of ball action is really good for. They're like absolute, it's 6, maybe 7 turns but it is not more than that. You know, it doesn't go. I can see the end coming, and I've got to work towards that objective. But yeah, in a lot of kind of more modern systems, and they are often more cumbersome, I will admit. But like the Two Fat Lardies games, but many others like it, having some kind of event deck or tactics decks for your army, some kind of special rules that you can buy in before the game. How do you feel about those things?
I'll be blunt. I'll be honest. I don't like that kind of stuff. I prefer very simple. I have my models. They have very simple stats. I don't need the cards to look up for things. I don't have a lot of other stuff that is not my models and some dice. And that's it. That's all I want myself. You know, but of course, if a customer says no, there needs to be cards and double-sided cards, like some of the design we've done for Draco Gaming, that they do fantasy, more a lot of 3D printed stuff. Draco Studios, one of the customers we've been writing games for, and indeed their style is very different. They have indeed custom dice and cards on the table and lots of tokens. So it's more of a modern Fantasy Flight style games rather than the old-fashioned, more like old-fashioned wargaming. I guess that's where I'm from, and I do prefer tables which have effectively models, dice, and a tape measure.
Yeah,
the old token, because pin markers in this case being the bolt action thing is there's pin markers there because the mechanic is kind of a core thing to in this case World War II. It was that suppression firing kind of thing. So, but I don't like a lot of other stuff on the table, to be honest. No.
Right. So that kind of event stuff. I mean, you do have some there's mission variety though, right? So that stuff can
for scenarios. I tend to see that as the scenario, when you play scenario play as opposed to pick up simple play. Scenario play, absolutely. I mean, I enjoy immensely playing with the Perrys, with Jervis, and like Valor and Fortitude. I don't know if you follow the Perry miniatures, the campaigns we do. Amazing, nothing at all like a competitive game, etc. It's all very, like, let's throw on this chart, and we found these rules here, very old rules, and let's use them. We, just accept every kind of wackiness, which is great. It's fun, and the right spirit is. But yeah, for pickup games, I think I'd rather go for simple playing, not too many charts and tables and things and events, and so yeah. But
a dynamic mission, every turn you turn a card and try and score it, that kind of stuff. It's not for you.
Don't like that.
But you could, if asked to, you could write a series of random events, though, because you're a games designer.
Well, I mean, as I said, the customer is king. If the customer wants
that,
it will deliver that. Absolutely.
If somebody wanted to design a game and you gave us £20, that sounds a fair rate. I don't know. I don't know. But you could maybe help someone push his game forward a little bit.
For a bag of crisps.
A bag of crisps. You've heard it here. Fact. New game coming out. The rest is Kaiser produces his game for a bag of crisps. Co-written, Alessio. I'm going to have to. Sorry, Kaiser. I'm going to have to say goodbye because my phone's about to crap out. Oh, you're wrapping up. All right, I'll stick around.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap up because we're going on late. And I told Alessio we'll be finished at 10:30. What I didn't know at the time was we were going to lose 20 minutes of the show.
So sorry about that.
Yeah, I feel really bad about that. Alessio, it's been fantastic having you on. So just remind the people at home where they can find you if you've got social media, company website, that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, riverhorse.eu or riverhorsegames.com. Both are the same website. Facebook, there's a Riverhorse Games page. That's probably Facebook is the social media we use the most. That would be it.
Cool. And if somebody sat at home on a set of rules and they want Alessio Cavatore to turn their scribblings into a rule set, what are we talking? How much is that going to cost?
It entirely depends. Again, there would be a session where I would bombard you with a million questions and trying to understand what you want. As in, how many factions are we talking about? Because balancing a game with 2 factions like Terminator is not the same as balancing a game with 8 factions. Suddenly you go, how many years of work is this? So Yeah,
Imagine a World War II skirmish game, 5 to 8 models, maybe that a ballpark price. You know, it's just give us something, Alessio. Come on.
John is literally talking about my unwritten war game that we've been playing a lot.
I may or may not be talking about that.
I may be slightly uncomfortable. I may be slightly uncomfortable talking about cash in front of an audience.
Okay.
No. I was actually saying for the audience. You know, somebody's sitting on a few grand, burning a hole in their pocket, and they want to turn their ideas of a game into a reality. They can actually commission you to do that, right?
They can commission it to me as a full job. I mean, commissioning a proper full game is not going to be. It's a long commitment. So you need at least 2 people, because you play testing for a long time. It's not going to be cheap. But
no.
If it's fixing an existing system, or rather, you know, advising, reviewing, giving feedback, giving advice, obviously it's a much different proposal. It all depends on quantity.
And they can get in touch with you via Riverhorse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
there's an info at Riverhorse email. Info at Riverhorse.
You get bombarded with frivolous questions. I'm sorry, but I'm conscious that you're living by writing rules for other people as well, don't you? So that is the thing you do.
Yeah, kind of a key thing.
Yes, we do our own products, but we also do services, indeed, and we can. We're mercenaries, so yes, you can hire us.
All right, Alessio, it's been a great privilege to talk to you and to learn a lot about the kind of thinking behind. I'd never even considered the kind of the customer aspect of rules writing, which is altogether so important, you know, and obviously it makes perfect sense when someone points it out to you.
Thank you. I'm glad that I gave you this insight.
and we're all generally, you know, little bit starstruck. We're huge fans of the history of Warhammer and Bolt Action, and some of us even like Terminator Genesis. And I'm sure I've played others of your games that I don't even know that you wrote them.
Yes, look on the credits and go, oh, he's done this one too.
And this one's
there again.
All right, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Thank you.